Is also going through a
Alright guys, Jack Atlas theme, that's a banger. I might listen to this later. Alright guys, we are so back. I'm gonna start in a couple of minutes. I don't think we'll get too many people in anyways, because I don't stream as much. And because it's New Year's Eve and people probably have lives. But as for the ones who don't have lives, I am here. So I'm just seeing on Twitter if there's anything to bring you guys last minute. Not a ton going on, to be fair, in the world. 100cc of fentanyl mixed with speed, and this the site. Jesus Christ, man. What is going on in America? Wow, this video is absolutely terrifying. This might be like, yeah, one of the scariest videos I've seen in a while. And I've seen a lot of scary stuff. Oh yeah, Stephen Fry getting a mental health award. Yeah, that's something. Oh, people clowning on Hideo. Okay. There's not much going on in the world, to be honest with you. Some guy caught his manager drinking before a shift. That's pretty funny. Well, there's a Starmer New Year's video. Let's give that a watch. We'll parallel this with the Kemi one, which is 24 seconds versus 3 minutes. So it's a good sleep aid for you guys who want to actually get some sleep on New Year's. No, yeah, the Guardian's such a mixed bag. They'll platform good people like Rachel Sharpie, and they'll platform really awful people as well. And then you're just like, what, do I support you or not? I don't know. Is it worth it for how washed you are at times? Yeah, conversations around Sadiq Khan's and knighthood as well. Oh yeah, I need the actual sound clip that I actually want to play as well. But yeah, there's honestly not a ton going on. Oh jeez. Watch Sonic 3, banger. So if anyone wants to watch that in cinema, I'd recommend it. It's one of the rare movies I'd recommend in cinema because it was slapped. Someone complaining about United Healthcare. Oh, this one's crazy. This tweet is from a doctor. Saying United Healthcare just denied a claim on one of my patients in the ICU with a brain hemorrhage, in a coma, on a ventilator, in heart failure, because I haven't proved that caring for them in the hospital was medically necessary. If they ever bring that stuff here, man, it's so over for us. It's actually so over for us. Alright, cool. We can start with the stream. I don't know if how many more people are going to join. Might as well. Sonic was good. Honestly, man, I loved it. I loved it so much. It was when I saw my boy Shadow on the big screen, I was like, we are so back. We are so here. Revenge Guac, that made me laugh. Don't know why. So funny. But yeah. Anyways, we're probably going to discuss something I never thought I would really talk about on the channel, which is the importance of things like hope and optimism. And it's mostly because you become a cynic in life. It's easy to become cynical in life. To mistrust people, to be annoyed at people, generally to hate people. They give you enough reasons to do it, but you kind of learn that it's not worth it. You can make changes, to things, and it does help. So we're going to cut from one person with a bit too much optimism, way too much optimism. Have I just started? Yeah, pretty much. Like last few minutes, haven't got to any of the good stuff yet. We're going to go from one guy who has way too much optimism and try to see the best in Labour regardless of the situation, and himself, of course, to someone who has no optimism and is kind of given up. There is no hope. There is no optimism. It depends on the topic, really. If you're talking about hope for the Labour Party, it'd be hopeless, abandon all hope. If you're talking about hope for the SNP, for example, they're going to do quite well, given that Labour have completely fumbled this one. So I think the SNP's polling in Scotland's gone up. That's good. That's something to be optimistic about. I think we're going to see a major split from the two major parties, and that support is going to go to Greens, Lib Dems, and Reform UK, which is unfortunate, but I think it's necessary. I think it's necessary just because of the fact that the system we have now is so bad and toxic that it doesn't create good politics. It hasn't created good politics in a very long time. So I think it's great. So yeah, I think it's important. There's always, like I saw the Jon Stewart clip where he was saying like, wake up tomorrow after Donald Trump won. Is we wake up tomorrow and we fight like hell to create the world that we want. Reform is going to do extremely well, unfortunately. How do you define extremely well? Because I see a lot of people say, "Oh, I'm not worried about reform. They're not going to win majorities." Like they don't have to. Like, if you look at who the most successful politician of the last 10 years was, it was Nigel Farage, who only just won a seat in Parliament. Like, in terms of our immigration policy, is dictated to us mostly by Farage and the framing around it. That's from Big Nigel. So the idea that you have to win an election to be influential is complete dog shit. Complete dog shit. They're the people who don't understand politics. Like, you don't have to win an election to be influential and get your policies across. What you need is to scare the main party enough that they listen to you, which is what Farage has done. He's literally done that. He did it to Tories, and he did it to Labour over immigration. You got Morgan McSweeney talking about how Labour needs to talk about immigration. You've got what's it called, the Red Wall MPs saying Labour needs to talk about immigration and do more. And you got a load of nonsense, a load of nonsense on the subject. Labour talking about, oh, we've got record deportations. That's something the Conservatives would say. That's literally what the Conservatives would say. So this idea is complete nonsense. Nonsense that, just because they can't win a majority, you're not that concerned about them. I'm very concerned about them. I'm concerned with the fact that they won seats. That they won a few seats, because that's it. It snowballs. They can get more media platform. Do you think the AfD, they're on, I think, 22% or something like that in the polls in Germany? Do you think they just woke up one morning and were on 22%? It's like, nah, that's not how it works. They've been snowballing for a while, and this is it. They're going to take off soon. It's ridiculous. The arguments some people make are just silly, absolutely silly. And I'm very concerned with reform, especially because the Tories failed the country. Labour are not doing good. Let's be honest now. And then, what do you do? Do you vote Labour in again? Do you think people are going to vote Labour in again? Sorry, big sneeze. Do you think the people are going to vote Labour in again if they don't do anything that they promised they would do? No, because I think people realise now that voter loyalty is gone. You don't vote how your parents voted. How your dad voted and his dad before him. You vote based on whoever offers you the best policies and whoever you believe in. That's what's happened now. Kind of like consumer-based voting. You vote for whatever you think is best, rather than generationally. It's very different now. There's a lot more swing voters and things like that. So that's the big danger, I think, for Labour. So we're gonna cut to main topics. Unless anyone's got any more questions you want to ask. Anyone want to derail it before I start? I'll give you a minute to decide. We play Venom Snake Walking into Hell because that's where we're heading, as always. Alright, I'll take that as a no. That is not Big Boss. I believe this is Venom Snake from MGS5. I could be wrong, considering they look the same. But I think that's Venom Snake and MGS5. I could be wrong on that one. This clip. This one's definitely Venom Snake, because that's on Mother Base. So this one's definitely Venom Snake, because you can see by his arm as well, the Phantom Pain. There's going to be that GIF playing a lot, as always. Oh yeah, Phantom Pain's great, apart from the fact that it's not finished. But yeah, Phantom Pain is really good. Alright, let's get started then. Before we get derailed on, no, that is not Solid Snake. So I want to discuss this video. I've been meaning to go for it for a while. So, this guy claiming that he's essentially, everything he's saying was proved right. What do you think reform? Yeah, I think 100%. I kind of answered it a bit there. Right, 100%. I think reform are a real threat. Our immigration policy is dictated to us effectively by Nigel Farage. Immigration is too high. We need to restrict visas and things like that. The small boats. This is all the stuff Farage has pushed, and that's immigration is one of the most toxic issues in the UK. I say immigration, actually, it's all of it. The whole conversation of asylum seekers. People who immigrate here for work, things like that.
The price to pay.
Oh, please don't give me PTSD from that, man. Don't do this, guys. Don't do this. That was probably the most frustrating day. No, the second most frustrating day of my YouTube career. The first being when I couldn't get my capture card to work for ages, and it suddenly worked because OBS hates me. Um, that that was the second most frustrating day of my career on YouTube. I don't think I've ever been more pissed off at someone and just thought, yeah, this person is not like I can't use the words I want to use to describe them. Let me put it that way. I can't actually explain to you how many IQ points I lost during that conversation. I honestly, guys, I struggled. I've never struggled before. Like, I could explain to people who've never really like cared for politics that much, right? Why it's important, or specific issues that they care about, and I could explain it to them, and they would understand better than why that dude couldn't understand why we can't rejoin the single market, and also why we are a competitor to the EU, and why certain countries would not want us in the single market. Fuck me, man. That was nuts. I don't think I'll ever recover from that. That was a day I nearly quit doing YouTube because I was like, this is absolutely vile. This is awful. So awful. Like I was like, yeah, I was speaking to other people like in the space and stuff like that. I think some of the stuff they say is wrong. I think some of them are maybe misguided. I think some of them are dishonest. But I never thought any of them stupid, like moronic. Like punching Superman in the face kind of idiocy. But that day, guys, was the darkest day of the year. That was this year as well, guys. Could you imagine? I'm pretty sure that was this year. Jesus Christ, man! I couldn't. I can't even. Oh God! I've never seen a person lack self-awareness. Yeah, it's 'cause I did the research. That's why, like, I actually did the reading into it. Like, there was one of these subscribers, the late Dano. He helped me a lot. Like, genuinely, he went through a lot of the research I did and helped me like understand it. So yeah, if you the one great thing about YouTube, and not just YouTube but having like a online platform, is that when you build like a good audience and you need help, yeah, your audience will generally be there to help you out. And so yeah, I was always grateful to him for like being able to do that for me. Because he was probably the guy who helped the channel the most, arguably, like in terms of like understanding things and checking things and things like that. Didn't he say a Labour there? Yeah, he did. Yeah, it's not just him. It's not just him. It was what do you call it? There's the other guy. I can't remember his name. Something Power. It's not Truth to Power. It's someone else. I think it might be Truth to Power. I can't remember his name, but he's talking about how Labour austerity is better than Conservative austerity. Then he tried to take a dig at me for not replying to him, and I was like, okay, buddy, like relax, big man. Um, you know, so no, it wasn't him. No. He argues that there is no Labour austerity. He's a small YouTuber. Like he's like I think his channel's smaller than mine. He's not been doing it that long. I think he's only been doing it for about a year or two. It might be Truth to Power, but I think like Truth to Power is I know who that is. No, it's not Truth to Power. It's someone else. It's something. It's got a similar name to that. But it's not him. Truth to Power's alright. Like I've only spoken to him once or twice, I think. But yeah, no, it's not him. It's someone else. That's it. That's the guy, Reagan. Yes. That's it. I think it was him. Let me just check quick before I slander someone else. Yeah, I think this is him.
Hello.
Yeah, that's him. Yeah, that's him. Oh, there's like someone else got the same name as him. So, oops. So yeah, that's him. Yeah. So yeah. Anyways, let's get on with the stream before I get derailed completely, guys. Let's actually discuss the stuff I wanted to actually discuss. So, lucky I had a nap. So this video, right, he's talking about the Labour's Ming-Fa strategy and all that nonsense, right? And then he talks about the single market, and I'm just like, this guy. And then he takes a victory lap.
They covered Reeves's trip recently to Europe, and bear in mind she didn't say anything new. There's no point covering her trip there because Rachel Reeves said nothing new to this. However, there was an interesting thing that I want to bring up in this Guardian article because this also sort of proves my theory right about how us rejoining the single market customs union is not as impossible as a lot of people cast it as. So it goes through this, talks about Reeves sort of redoing about it, talking again, being, important friends, having this shared sort of future together. And then the article says this, though. Some Brussels officials, though, have taken a tough line on any revisions of cross-border trading relations, while the UK refuses to consider rejoining the single market and custom union and rules out freedom of movement for labour.
All right, so let's have a look at the article he's talking about quickly. Right, so so I can actually transform the clip. So the article does say that. Are there any quotation marks? No. Is there anyone on the record about this? No. Is there anyone off the record about this? No. And again, there's no actual mechanism for us to rejoin the single market without being an EFTA or the EU. Like, that mechanism doesn't exist. It might be that they want the UK to join the EU single market and customs union, right? It could be that they want us to rejoin, as an EFTA member, or maybe they want to make special provisions for us. We don't know. And let's also bear in mind that some of the people in Brussels, they make mistakes. We saw that with one of the Brussels officials, a couple of them, talking about how they might kick Ireland out of the single market because of Brexit and because of border checks. You had them talking about something to do with vaccine exports, I think, from Ireland to Northern Ireland, about shutting down the border, and it got stopped real quick because the Taoiseach called and was like, "What are you doing?" So just because they have said this, unless you can point to the specific mechanism in the way the UK can join the EU single market and customs union, you're going to get nowhere fast. And all you're doing is selling snake oil once again to your audience. It's pathetic. And if we actually look further into the article, Reeves said, however, there will be no unwinding of Brexit with a return to the single market, the customs union, or changes of freedom of movement. Now, it's possible the EU are saying this, right? That they've taken a tough line on any revisions to cross-border trading relations while we refuse to join the single market. It could be because they don't see the point of really changing the trading rules, because the UK doesn't actually want to be a full member of the EU again. The EU does make certain trading arrangements, I believe, for countries looking to become EU members. I think Ukraine is one of them. So countries that are looking to gain EU ascension, they effectively do have, I think, easier rules when it comes to trade and things like that, which makes sense because you talk about convergence. So that could be what they're talking about here. It could be the Guardian just using clumsy framing. But there are no quotation marks here, no one off the record, no one on the record. So, to take this as the sum total of it is ridiculous, especially when the BBC didn't even cover that bit. You could argue, oh, it's the BBC or whatever. They didn't even cover that. They talked about following a chance to Eurogroup finance ministers in Brussels, the first given by a UK chancellor since Brexit. Reeves repeated that the UK would not rejoin the single market and customs union or freedom of movement as outlined in Labour's manifesto. So, she didn't rule out dynamic alignment, which is good. But that's about it. And then you got him taking a victory lap over this.
Now, hold on a second. I'm constantly told by a lot of people in the comments, UK can't rejoin single market customs union.
Well, those people in the comments are right if it's outside of EFTA or the EU.
Why have we got here this in the Guardian? It's saying some Brussels officials are saying, you can't do it until the UK refuses to consider rejoining the single market and customs union. I just want to point out, As I said, I am being proved right with time.
You've been proved.
Constantly being proved.
You've been proved wrong with time. You said Labour aren't going to do austerity. It's a smokescreen. The fiscal rules are a smokescreen. That's what you said to me on stream. You talked about how the UK should rejoin the single market. There's no mechanism for that. Even in this article, there's no one record about it. This is literally just lying and just self-delusion. Like, optimism and hope are important, but this is delusion.
Proved right with time. However, like I say, we go back to this Ming Vast strategy. Keir Starmer doesn't have to say anything about what he wants yet with the EU, what he intends to do that. And like I say, we'll probably see a lot of talk about that actually next year. We'll probably get to see some proper movement.
Oh, we've got Ellie
we
in the comments as well. Hold on. We've got Ellie in the comments as well, saying the European Union is so happy with Starmer that Brussels cancelled the meeting they were supposed to have with Starmer on the 18th of December, and her writing, oh wait, they'll interpret this and invite something very positive, like the EU needing more time. What they don't know, the real reason for the delay is von der Leyen texted me yesterday and asked me to sign a deed of gift for residency in, I don't even know what the hell that is. It's just ridiculous, honestly.
She's going to do yet, but there are lots of options that they could go with. We know that the EU has said, well, what about this? We're offering you this, youth movement scheme. We have youth movement schemes with other countries.
Yeah, the UK ruled it out, and I think they're going to continue to roll it out because of fears around immigration, and because Labour don't want to be seen as taking us back to get freedom of movement, even though it's not going to happen.
Keir Starmer could very easily say, okay, we'll do that. But yet he doesn't want to yet, because he is still having to re-warm the public to the idea that working with the EU is in the UK's best interests. Working with them, aligning with them on EU rules and standards.
If he wanted to align with them, he would have done it by now.
Say we've got,
or he would have announced it by now.
Metallurgy and meteorology bill still to come, which again, want to remind you, in there basically says if the Council of Industry wants to follow European regulations, and guess what? The government will say, okay, we'll follow those rules and regulations. Guess what?
So we're being governed by business now. That's great, isn't it?
Guess what? All UK industry and manufacturing wants to do: follow EU rules and regulations. So this is where we are. We are still at this stage.
It's just a joke, mate. Honestly, just absolutely ridiculous. Some of the worst takes I've ever seen. Generationally bad, historically bad, and yet you can take a victory lap over it. When the best you've gotten, the crumb of hope you've gotten is some Brussels officials are taking a tough line on any revisions to cross-border trading relations, while the UK refuses to consider rejoining the single market. Is this it? Is this the best you've got? Crazy business. Crazy. I did want to discuss this. This is kind of on the other end of it, people kind of giving up on Labour. The ones that, said, we've got to vote Labour, we'll push them to the left. The ones who talked about having secret plans to get proportional representation and other good policies. Hey, look, it's Reagan. The ones who talked about all sorts of stuff, right? All sorts of stuff. Saying they want to do this and that, and now they've given up, apparently.
But yeah, I mean, look, I get the whole thing of like Labour didn't hit the ground running like they could have done, considering how big their majority is, and I feel like they could have been bolder, and I felt exactly the same way years and years ago, 27 years ago when they won in 1997. I felt exactly the same way, Tan. They could have just done so much more. They did some brilliant stuff, like they brought in the minimum wage. Eventually, they got rid of Clause 28. Section 28, sorry, at the local Education Act, which meant you can't talk about being gay. They did some good stuff. They also brought in tuition fees and invaded Iraq. So, got to take them off with the smooth.
Yeah.
Don't know if Iraq war jokes are that good, pal. Honestly, given what happened to that country. But then again, I don't want to be the joke police.
That's the problem. I mean, I'm caught in between two worlds here. I mean, I am reaching the point where I'm going to start laying into them a bit because bunch of things that they've done that I fundamentally disagree with. Like, for one, needlessly pursuing the Tory culture war bullshit of punishing trans people, which is a disgrace.
Yeah.
Well, the reason they're pushing this stuff is there are, I think, quite a few transphobes within the kind of elected Labour officials, but also the fact that a culture war distracts people from other things like the economy, which didn't grow in Q3, which is going to struggle in Q4, which is going to do really badly in Q1. That's why they're continuing this culture war.
That is something that I 100% cannot get behind. But then there's also the aspect of, like, on the other hand, you know, they're beginning to implement or start to build on their manifesto pledges, but it's really complicated. It's not cut and dry.
Yeah.
The things that they're bringing in are good things, like taxing the rich, good. Non-dom status, good. VAT on
The non-dom status thing was like seen as like it's not that tax beneficial, whatever, right? Because I remember Ed Miliband talked about it back in 2015. Taxing the rich, like, have they really changed that many taxes on rich people? They did inheritance tax, they did private schools. I think that's about it, to be honest. Oh yeah, inheritance tax, VAT on private schools. That's about it.
Public school, private schools, good. Nationalising the railways, you know.
Yeah, but they're not doing rolling stock like the actual trains. So again, it's kind of mid.
Fundamentally good policies that we need, but then on the other hand, you know, there's stuff that I don't agree with, and it's not been long, so I don't feel like I've had long enough to judge them on their record to see if they're starting to achieve them, because it's been
You can judge them on their words as well. You know, the stuff that they've said. It's not been great. So, you know, we can absolutely judge them 5 months. Who cares?
5 months.
Yeah.
And then on the
You judge them on their budget, the first budget they pushed, where they took money from pensioners. We can judge them on that. We can judge them for the decisions they didn't take, such as, you know, keeping the 2-child cap, not raising the top rate of income tax, things like that.
On the other hand, you've got the relentless rise of Farage cashing in on everything he's destroyed, because let's face it, he was basically he was the one behind Tory policy for the last 8 years. Essentially, they were trying to appease Farage the whole time, etc. So Farage has essentially kind of, to get an idea of what a Farage government would be like, you've just got to look at what the Tories have done for the last 8 years, and that would be what a Farage government would be like. People filling their pockets, you know, culture wars, all that bullshit.
Yeah.
So you've got them rising.
I would argue they would be worse. I think you'd see massive changes to the immigration rules. You'd see big changes to the NHS as well, like, you know, fundamental changes where they would change to an insurance-based system.
Well, you've got a Labour government that's only just begun. They're doing some shady shit. They're not particularly inspiring. They're getting it in the neck because they're pissing off all the people that are ultra rich, who run the, you know, the newspaper companies who want to retain non-dom
And their
status.
children go to the
they don't
posh
want
schools.
private schools. So anything, and like they were even like building houses the other day. That, and it's like, we need houses, and they're making poorer people again think that building houses is bad, and it's like, what are you talking about? We've not had like social housing builds in this country for like eons.
Yeah, you know, again, the media are a problem, sure. But again, Labour fed into the anti-immigration stuff as well as other things. Like, you can't blame the media for everything. Like, at some point, you do have to take personal responsibility as a politician.
Even the last lot didn't do a good enough job of it. So you've got all these conflicting things. I'm just sitting here thinking, right, okay, yeah, Labour's, they're not great.
This is hilarious. Reagan, you versus this guy. In the comments, this is actually amazing. Are you enjoying your spanner power trip? It just goes to show you won't debate opposition, you're lost. This is actually amazing.
Not as bad as them lot. And if you kind of like knock Labour heavily, you're going to help them lot. So it's a really...
What you're doing is, by criticising Labour, is A, kind of your job in the media as a YouTuber, depending on how you define what you're meant to be doing. You know, on this channel, the politics social, it's no longer the Labour social. So unless you're kind of just trying to play and curry favour with Labour, I don't get it. The other thing is, you're giving them time to actually change law. You're giving them actually time to change policy, to change rhetoric, before the election. Like it doesn't make sense. You would anyone who made this argument, right? You would criticize them if they're on the Conservative end, right? If someone actually made this argument and said, well, if we criticize the Tories, we're helping Labour, so I'm not going to do that. You call them cowards. You say it's a dereliction of duty as someone in the media. That's what this is by using this kind of logic.
Really tough.
Yeah, but I mean, look, we've got a long time before the next election. It's a very long time until the next election. And Trump will be over, but hopefully, by the next election, because his entire term is going to be spent with the Tories and we fuck out of power in this country. But yeah, I share your concerns, Tan. I think they could have done more. I'm just making a point of not really defending them if they do something daft. I'm not going to say, oh, but there's a good reason for it. I just go, oh, fuck it. If they've done something
I don't know the reason for it.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know.
Wow, that's crazy, Remember we said before the election, gang? Remember we said that these guys are idiots, they don't know what they're doing, they don't understand politics? And they were like, oh no, they want a big election, of course they understand politics. Me. Do you remember, gang? I said Starmer's not good at politics, he's not good in PMQs, he's not good at, multiple different things. And then they kept pushing him, and they kept calling people Tory enablers and stuff like that. And now it's, oh, I've got buyer's remorse now, or I'm not really happy, or I'm not gonna really defend them anymore. It's like, that's the bare minimum if they do bad policies. The bare minimum is not to defend them, but the expectation is you actually cover this stuff and give your honest opinion on why these are bad policies. That's the point. Unless you see the job role as different, then fair enough, but that's not how I see it.
What they're fucking playing at with this, refusal to stop foreign donations.
Yeah.
There's no.
They took money from a company based in the Cayman Islands. Like, they're not going to want to tighten up election reform because it's a sieve. They need the money as well. A lot of the small donations from Labour are gone. The fact that they did a massive legal challenge against, basically people who were there during the Corbyn era. They wasted an enormous amount of money on those legal challenges. The Labour Party need money. That's why they're not going to get rid of it.
Logical reason for it, like other people said, it's like the lambs voting for the slaughterhouse. It's insane. Like, what possible defence is there? I'm no longer a Labour member, not for any particular dramatic cutting up my card thing. It just lapsed, and I just didn't bother renewing it because I just don't see the point in power. I don't think my fight.
What the fuck? There's literally the people who said oh, we're going to pressure the Labour Party. How are you going to pressure them when you're not even a member? What is honestly right? This is actual insanity. This is genuinely. I'm baffled. They're the people who kept saying we're going to push Labour to the left. We're going to get these policies through, and yet they haven't. I'm baffled. Absolutely baffled.
Labour is going to help them enormously, and so I'm not a member of Labour. I don't have any tribal loyalty to Labour.
Well, that's what Samusu's saying in the chat. What I like about Labour supporters, though, we don't cheer them to the rafters regardless of what they're up to, unlike the Tory supporters who...
I don't know, dog. When Labour are in opposition, you seem to do a lot of that. You're doing a lot of that. A lot of cheering from the rafters.
They were cheering a fucking football team. That's so true. It's like, that footballification, easy for you to say, of politics, which, it is. Like, the refuck supporters, you got your Farage out he did exactly what Trump did this year. Farage did. He told his supporters to go out on the streets and cause problems. And then they all got put in jail. And unlike the American ones who are going
I don't think Nigel Farage said that, I'll be honest.
Released in a few weeks' time. These dickheads. Imagine just being humiliated like that on TV, on social media, everywhere around the country. Everyone's laughing at you, and then
the knackers and the head of them.
Yeah.
I don't think there's anything more interesting to talk about during this one. But point being is, you can see someone I think up here who has a lot of apathy, or both people really have a lot of apathy towards the Labour Party. And again, these are the people who kept pushing. You kept pushing the Labour Party, kept calling people Tory enablers, and now they got buyer's remorse. I did see this interesting thread by someone talking about canvassing for Labour, saying he's been heckled, shouted at, door slammed, dogs chase him down paths, but tonight I had probably my worst exchange on a doorstep. So he goes, our leaflet in Rochester had a promise on it about getting more NHS dentists in the area, tackling antisocial behaviour, along with some of the other stuff. Like most voters, I barely glance at what's on these leaflets. I'm here just to data harvest. Oh, that's a bit interesting. So if you look here, right, more NHS dentists is really important, and tackling antisocial behaviour is also very important. He goes, I opened the door to a middle-aged woman in the suburbs of Strood. She explained that she was undecided, leaning 5 out of 10 for Labour. I intend to try and get her number for a candidate call. I asked her if there's any issues weighing on her mind, fishing for intel to pass on. It's a bit sus the way he's written this. Size. Says not really, flicks through the leaflet, says the problem is you promise things like this, like new dentist, I need a dentist, but how are you going to deliver this? Where are you going to get the money from for NHS dentists? Fair question. How will you attract NHS dentists and staff to move to Rochester? Again, that's a twofer. That's a, first of all, how are you going to attract NHS dentists, which is important, and then how are you going to get the staff to move to Rochester? How are you going to get them to set up a clinic? He goes, I pause. I know Labour have ruled out any major tax rises. Where are they going to get the money from? I say, well, Labour is going to focus on getting the economy growing again after years of stagnation. Okay. So with that thing, I think they actually need to get in dentists that were employed by the NHS. That's the only way to do it. He goes, yeah, so if we get the economy to grow, we can invest it. She cuts in, how are you going to do that? I'm worried that planning reform isn't going to be a vote winner. It's a bit esoteric in explaining how the housing crisis is impacting the economy. I don't think solving the housing crisis is going to get growth. Not significant growth. You'll get like a boom in the construction industry, and some in manufacturing, but it's not gonna be the thing that's gonna really grow the economy. He goes, well, it's complicated, and I don't think this vote will be moved by talking about building more homes. I'm correct here, as she later dismissed the point on housing on the leaflet because she doesn't need housing, so it doesn't affect her, which, again, that makes sense. If you're not looking to buy a house, why would you care about them building more houses? He says, I could talk vaguely about allowing more infrastructure development by cutting red tape, but I don't, as I sense this isn't just a curious chat from an engaged voter, but it's a bit of a quizzing. I feel my blood pressure rising a little bit. He goes, antisocial behaviour, lucky it doesn't affect me here, but what exactly are you going to do? I attempt to row back and divert. I say, I'll tell you what, I think Lauren Edwards, our candidate, is best placed to answer these questions. I ask her for a contact number. She declines dismissively. But the thing is, if you're a canvasser, you're meant to actually understand Labour policy. In my opinion, if you're going out canvassing for a party, you're an advocate for that party. This guy talking about he's data harvesting or whatever. You're there to advocate for the party when you go out canvassing. The fact you couldn't answer the most basic questions tells me you have no idea what's going on. She declines. I'm paraphrasing here, which says, I'm sorry, but you're trying to get me to vote for this party. You cannot even answer these simple questions. Oh my days, she cooked him. She fucking cooked him. Oh my god. She absolutely smoked him. This is annihilation. I'm gonna bookmark this tweet. This is absolute annihilation right here. She's absolutely destroyed this man. He goes, he goes, I'm just a volunteer, not the candidate. Most people are receptive to this line and don't. Oh, this quite old actually. Hey, wait a minute. Yeah, this from June 19th. Oh, my bad. I thought this was more recent. Whoa. That shows you how thingy this is, though. Yeah, the fact they couldn't even answer basic questions back then. Now I'm crumbling to explain. I'm just a volunteer down from London. I say again, if she wants to answer policies, Lauren would be best to speak to. My fellow canvassers said I did everything right and would have offered similar responses because they don't know. That's the point. They didn't know. And this would have been in the run up to the election as well. As a person, I'm skeptical that I wasn't speaking to an activist. We had no data on her. She wasn't down as a supporter of another party. I asked to see if she had a local councillor with us, as they might know the individual if they were an activist. There wasn't a councillor with us, so he's pivoting to, maybe she's a Tory or some shit. I've never asked someone on the doorstep make me feel so small. I find it difficult to shake the exchange. I summed up to the board runner, I would rather be shouted at than be condescended. You weren't condescended though, pal. She asked you basic questions. Someone told him. One of her lines stuck in my head. You, as a volunteer, are meant to be meant to have faith in the party, but you can't even explain your policies. As in my defence, the new dentist for Rochester was totally new to me, but across the country, Labour candidates were making similar pledges to this. Labour won't raise any big taxes. The sums raised on VAT on private schools are tiny, and I started to ponder that I do have faith in Labour, but the problem is I'm just out here on faith that a Labour government will somehow get the growth necessary to end austerity. Labour made it clear it won't commit to any tough choices to a shift to a more progressive tax base. Apart from planning reform, all politically tough choices have been dodged. I guess I still have faith. Time will tell whether this takes the top spot of the worst doorstep experiences I've had. Blah blah blah. Right? It's crazy business. This thread is before the election. It's madness, absolute madness. I didn't even realise, like, because it felt like it was after the election, but no, it's even worse. It's even worse. Oh my god. Yeah, we'll keep that one in the bookmarks. We're going to pivot to a little bit on the Tories.
It was a vote, in my view, for common sense, because at the end of the day, you've got Liz Truss, who crashed our economy, whether you like it or not. That's what happened. And as a net result, we're paying more for stuff now than we did before. We had Boris offering the oven-ready Brexit, which won him the election. But the problem is the oven-ready deal that he said wasn't oven-ready deal. In fact, it was probably not even ready to go in a tray. And as a net result...
Why are you laughing for, bro? That's literally what you stood on. You stood on that manifesto.
You ended up with massive economic downfalls that we had. The person who was on before you, James, he would often say that we instigated economic sanctions on ourselves, and to an extent we did. The Conservatives at the last point, when I watched a briefing with Rishi Sunak, stood with a podium that said "Stop the boats." I mean, come on, we're not pandering to the far right of the Conservative Party, but that's what he's afraid.
But I mean, that's what he tried to do in the end. He tried to make that the national conversation. So this from Badenoch.
Happy New Year. Like all of you, I am looking forward to a 2025 that is full of hope, security, and prosperity. The Conservative Party is also going through a period of change. This process of renewal will be a long-term...
She uses that phrase a lot, process of renewal, I've noticed. If you can't hear me over the fireworks, I'm really sorry.
...project. Things may be bumpy along the way, but the party I now lead is going to do things differently. Watch this space.
Okay, should be interesting to see what she's going to do that's different to the last geezer. Saw this from Starmer.
2024 was a year of change. Not sadly in the football, another agonisingly close shave for England. But changing politics. Wage raised by a record amount. Wages up more broadly. Returns of foreign national criminals up 20%. Billions of pounds worth of new projects in clean British energy, making our country more secure. And £25 billion invested in our NHS, starting to cut waiting lists in your local hospital. Now, I know there's still so much more to do, and that for many people it's hard to think about the future when you spend all of your time fighting to get through the week. So I want to be clear, until you can look forward and believe in the promise and the prosperity of Britain again, then this government will fight for you. A fight for change that will define...
Yeah, they'll fight for you unless you're old or, a third child or a fourth child. Then they're not going to fight for you.
This year, next year, and indeed every waking hour of this government. We have a clear plan for change. 1.5 million new homes, restoring the dream of home ownership. Children starting school ready to learn. A more secure energy system. Waiting lists cut dramatically. Immigration.
I don't think the waiting lists have been cut down. There's more stories about 4-hour wait times for ambulances, amongst other things. Like the wait times haven't been cut down.
Reduced. Neighbourhood police tackling antisocial behaviour in every community. And more
Happy New Year,
cash
guys.
in your pocket wherever you live. That is what we will be focusing on. A year of rebuilding, but also rediscovering the great nation that we are. A nation that gets things done, no matter how hard or tough the circumstances. We'll have time to reflect on that this year. A chance with the 80th anniversary of VE and VJ Day.
Yeah, this is lame as fuck. I did see, talking about reform, I don't know if you're still in the chat, they got an MRP poll out which shows Ed Miliband unfortunately losing his seat. Rest in peace, the king. But, this is a long way out from the election. A long way out. So we should be hopefully fine for Ed. But It's a bit scary, this. So you got an MRP poll out showing that Ed Miliband would lose his seat very narrowly, compared to the SDP, their allies. So Reform did not stand in 24. Instead, endorsing the SDP. So changes are compared to the SDP result. This is ominous. This is quite scary. The fact that they might lose their Ed Miliband might lose his seat to Reform, and then they're saying if the election was held based on the polling results, they've got Labour's majority. I think Labour wouldn't have a majority, it'd be 228. I think you need like 230 to have a majority. The Tories, 222. Reform being on 72 is terrifying. Absolutely terrifying. Lib Dems down to 58, the SNP up to 37, the Independents up to 8, PC, I think that's Plaid, will be 4, and the Greens will be on 2, which is 2 less than what they have now. So again, we're a long way out from this election, but I think it does show you that people aren't really happy with the Labour Party, and that their narrowly won majority, which was narrow, the way they won it, is not going to hold. And this is the graph form of it, so we'll keep this up. And the thing is, if you listen to clowns like this guy, right? He goes, British politics is absolutely cursed by voters' expectations. Old jokes aside, it genuinely feels like the public wants lower taxes and better services right now. I'd say pick one, but the former is largely impossible and the latter is slow and difficult. The thing is, the idiocy of this statement is that it depends on the tax. If you're talking about things like the top rate of income tax, people want that raised. I think capital gains tax, people want that raised. I think if you explain to the public, right, that people who make money via stocks and shares pay less in tax than people who, actually, work and earn money, I think the public would be on board with raising capital gains tax at least in proportion to income tax. I genuinely, in my heart, believe that. So if you listen to idiots like this guy, you're going to get nowhere fast, because this guy has no idea what he's talking about. James never on the ball. You got voters who are annoyed that they feel lied to and given false hope by Starmer when it came to the election, because there were a lot of people who switched from Tory to Labour. First-time Labour voters, potentially. Or people who had been disenchanted with the Labour Party. Maybe it was because of Ed Miliband, Corbyn, or the 2008 financial crash, who knows. But the important thing is, people were annoyed. People who have come back to the Labour Party are annoyed. We'll go to our final clip, which is a what if, and things could have been so different. Genuinely, things could have been so different in politics if Bernie had won that original leadership contest against Trump. So I saw this clip from the news agents who've done a special what if series.
Trump would have had to fight a very different election in 2016. He would have not been able to be the populist, or at least he would not have been able to have a monopoly on populism. What we now know about the politics of the United States and our own politics over the last 10 years is that the 2008 crash unleashed forces of anger, discontent with the system as it is, and that the Democrats under Obama were seen not to prosecute properly. I mean, they literally didn't prosecute anyone responsible for the financial crisis, for example.
Or the Iraq War, which is true. Even though Obama promised hope and change, he offered no hope and no change.
Which created a toxin in politics. That energy was going somewhere. We now know it was going somewhere, and that it would be a winning energy. And what the Democrats did by nominating Hillary, and then Harris as well, most latterly, is allow Trump to have a monopoly on that anger and that populism. And if Bernie had been in the race, he wouldn't have had a monopoly on it. And he would have had to, maybe Trump would have won anyway, but he would have had to fight a very different campaign.
I think Trump wouldn't have won that, because he would have talked about how, all the injustices, all the right-wing talking points, all, the stuff about being against outsourcing and Bernie was like, yeah, I'm against that too. And they would have probably talked about some sort of bill he sponsored or co-wrote or something that would have stopped it. That's what would have happened. He would have lost that election.
Than the one he thought
Trump.
Against Hillary.
We cheated a bit. We put this question last week to James Carville,
who
was Clinton's strategist.
Yeah.
We asked him his thoughts on this, and he just said, do you know the one word he said? Immigration. Bernie Sanders was always an advocate of immigration. He believed in its power to change America, to help
open borders, no. I don't think Bernie believes in open borders.
American economy. And actually, if you think back, the message that never changed from Trump, right from day one, was stopping the Mexicans coming over the border. And he thinks that's where Bernie Sanders would have come a cropper. That, yeah, you can fight as the populist, you can fight as the...
Do you really think, though, if Bernie was promising actual change, right, you think people would have been like, nah, I'm going to vote for the racist guy? I don't think so. Like, when you look at what Biden was offering, Biden was offering, left populism as well, being pro-worker and things like that as well. So I don't think this is true. The fact that this is a Hillary Clinton strategist, should we believe someone who lost against Barack Obama in the primaries, right, or lost against Donald Trump? Should we believe a person who's on this strategy team? I don't think so.
The outsider, you can fight as the person who doesn't like big business, but his anti-big business message would have had to be louder than Trump's anti-immigration message.
Yeah, I don't think so. Especially when Bernie can say you hired illegal immigrants in your own businesses. Like, how are you anti-immigration when you directly benefit from immigration? That's all Bernie would have to say in that situation. I just you're talking to the strategist for a two-time loser. He got some angst apparently for because he was anti-immigration, but I don't know if that's true. But he would have won, in my opinion. That's the last clip of the day, guys. This is one way to end the year and I guess start the new one, which is live streaming to the audience. Really appreciate you guys spending New Year's, I guess, with me for a little bit. But yeah, that's me done. 2024 is in the books. We moved to 25, I guess. And I think the main message for 25 is, surprisingly enough, especially coming from me, is not to abandon all hope, I guess. I don't know, like, we can't change politics, but you can still put yourself in a better place, I think, wherever you are in life. I think that's going to be the key here. And so I'll end, instead of ending with See Ya Chump, I'll end with my favourite quote from my boy Russell Adler from Cold War.
We don't just sit back and hope for the best. We'll make the best happen.
And that's me done, guys. I'll catch you guys next year. Bye-bye. Or, sorry, this year. Bye-bye.